Whew. I'm winded just looking at that. I don't know. That's definitely a young man's game right there. But I feel like that's the energy we needed to kick things off. And we're just going to keep this thing going. I am super excited to introduce our first keynote speaker. This gentleman is not only a Disney alum, world-class speaker, but he's also a native Buffalonian and a Bills fan, which is definitely the best team in the NFL right now. Go Bills. Without further ado, what I like to do is bring to the stage Simon T. Bailey. But first, a quick intro of Simon.
Can we just give it up for the Divine Nine? Was that not just amazing, amazing? It's so good to be here. Do me a favor, can y'all just turn around, look at the camera, and let's say hi to everybody that's here virtually. Let's just wave at them. Glad you're here. Hello, good morning, awesome. Well, when you find your spark, you find your joy. When you find your joy, you find your voice. And when you find your voice, you find your freedom. When you find your freedom, you begin to understand that a job is what you're paid to do, but release your brilliance is what you are made to do. And when you release your brilliance, you become the spark that changes everything. Good morning, oh brilliant one. Do me a favor, look at the person you're sitting next to, look them in the eye, and say, good morning, oh brilliant one. Somebody said, I'm glad you finally recognize. A number of years ago, Mom and Dad loaded the family station wagon and drove me and my brother from Buffalo, New York, down to Atlanta, Georgia, where they dropped me off at Morehouse College. And at the end of my freshman year, they said, we don't have the money to send you back to Morehouse, nor do we have money to bring you back home to Buffalo, but we do love you. And a few days ago, I was cleaning out some things, and I came across my transcript from Morehouse College from my freshman year right here. And so, first semester, my GPA at Morehouse was 3.0, first semester. Second semester, my GPA was 1.87. I think I spent a little bit too much time over at Spelman. For a whopping GPA of 2.43. So I eventually did go back to school, finish my undergrad, finish my master's degree. It took me about 10 years, and my parents said, it took you 10 years to finish your degree. I said, because you didn't pay. But I love you. And what's interesting, when I was there in Atlanta, I started in the hospitality industry. I was working at a Days Inn hotel and got offered a job at the Ritz-Carlton, and I didn't understand what a Ritz-Carlton was. I turned the job down. And what I recognize, it's not who you are that holds you back, it's who you think you're not that holds you back. And sometimes we focus on who we think we're not instead of who we are. And what I begin to understand, in the words of my good friend Willie Jolly, a setback is a setup for a comeback. Wherever you are right now in life, point number one, finish what you start. I want to invite you to focus. Everybody say focus. Fight. Finish. So if you're going to really be that spark, how do I focus? People don't fail because of lack of focus. They fail because of broken focus. When I begin to understand how do I fight, how do I begin to come back? I don't know about you, but has anybody been through change over the last couple of years? Just, we're all my honest folks. So when I talk about fight, here's something that I'd like for us to do. I'd like everybody to sit up straight in your seats, feet flat on the ground. And I want to take us through a mental health exercise called centering. In a moment, I'm going to count to 3, and I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath, inhale, exhale. We're going to do it 3 times, okay? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Amazing. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Last time. 1, 2, 3. Whenever you have days when everybody is pulling at you and there's a lot going on, come back to getting centered. Because when you get centered, you create internal alignment of head, heart, and hands. And when you are centered, your feet will follow because you're living from the inside out. When you have those days when the vicissitudes of everything that's happening in the world weighs on you, come back to getting centered. Here's another key takeaway as we think about how do we continue to be the spark despite what's going on. And I would encourage us, do me a favor, because what I have to say is too important. I want those doors closed. If we could just close those doors, thank you so much, because it would be a dishonor if you don't get 100% of myself. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Is that all right? Is it? Okay. So here's the second big takeaway. I want to invite everybody to take your meds. MEDS is an acronym that stands for meditate. Everybody say meditate, exercise, diet, sleep. So if I'm going to understand my spark, how to ensure that I am meditating, slowing down to the speed of life. How you start the day determines the day. If you are taking notes, I would encourage you as you think about meditation to write down, how do I begin to celebrate where I'm going instead of looking through the rearview mirror of where I've been? How do I begin to celebrate, meditate, exercise, diet? Let me drop a pin in sleep. All the research says when we get proper sleep, it's emotional first aid for the brain. So when we are taking care of ourselves, and here's why I start here. No matter how hard you work in your job, if you kick the bucket, expire, or check out tomorrow, they're going to post your job on the internal intranet, and life is going to go on. They're going to go on Indeed.com and find somebody else to backfill your role. So what I'm encouraging you to think about, how do I take care of myself? Can y'all hear that? So living in Atlanta, I ended up moving here to Orlando a number of years ago, worked for a few different companies, and I got a call one day to start interviewing here at Disney. And over a 2-year period, 10 interviews, a 10-page psychological analysis from Gallup, they finally hooked a brother up. So September 21st, 1996, I joined the happiest place on earth. And what y'all probably don't know is that Disney covers about 47 square miles here at Walt Disney World, and there are 64,000 people that work within 47 square miles. And so the first day at Disney, I had to go to Disney University, which is the internal training arm of the company. At Disney University is where you drink the Kool-Aid, you sniff the pixie dust, and you get the microchip planted right here, and you come out singing, "It's a small world after all." So I'm working my little job, you know, and what a lot of people don't know is when the parks get really busy, it's all hands on deck. And if you look at me, I am all about the air condition. I'm not trying to work in anybody's theme park in the months of June, July, and August, trying to work on my Godiva tan. But one day, some of y'all get that later. One day I had to go and work at MGM Studios, which is just a stone's throw away from where we are right now. And so I want y'all to imagine, I got on a blue smock, a broom, a dustpan in my hand, my name tags that says Simon from Buffalo, New York. By the way, as then it said, "Go Bills, this is our year." I'm just saying. And I I got beads of sweat coming down my head, and I'm just like, wah, wah, wah. I am like, whatever. But some guests were coming towards me, and at Disney, you never call them customers, you call them guests, and they caught a glimpse of my name tag, and they said, "You're from Buffalo, New York." I said, "Yes." They said, "We're from Buffalo, New York." Like, no way. They're like, "Where'd you go to school? Where'd you grow up? What's your parents' names?" I didn't know these people from Adam's house cat, let alone from a can of paint, but we were having a major conversation. So I said, "What have you done since you've been here at Disney?" They're like, "Oh, we've gone to Epcot, we've gone to Magic Kingdom, we've gone to all the other water parks." I said, "Now that you're here at MGM, you gotta ride Tower of Terror, you gotta experience Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, and you gotta eat at the Brown Derby." So a couple of hours, I'm back at my desk, and that's when I had the whack upside the head. Disney never sent me out to the park to sweep the streets. They sent me out to the park to connect with a family that had probably saved 3 to 5 years of their discretionary income to come to Disney for maybe once in their lifetime. And a family of 4 in a 7-day stay, according to Disney Business Analytics, will spend about $10,000. So when I had that epiphany, what I'm about to say, I mean this figuratively, not literally, I quit my job at Disney and I went to work at Disney. Because Disney never hired me to do a job, they hired me to create a moment. I submit to you, when I begin to understand that, I recognized 30 years ago, a number of people, they went to work and they settled for a chair, a check, and a cup of coffee in Kickoff Farm, and woke up one day and said, "I'm just a bill." Well, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here in Capitol Hill. I know you don't know anybody like this, but here is what I'm here to let you know. A job stands for just overboard, because when you find your spark and you are operating in your brilliance, you don't chase promotions, promotions chase you. When you are doing what you love to do, how many of you love what you do? By show of hands, all right? Now, if there are any recruiters near you, just put 2 hands up. I can be poached. I can be poached. When you love what you do, here's what I know to be true, and here's the research. Gallup says that within a 40-year career, a person will spend 82,000 hours of their life at work. 82,000 divided by 40 years is about 2,000 hours per year. 2,000 hours per year divided by 50 weeks, because we all know that y'all take a 2-week vacation, is about 40 hours. But if the truth be told, many of you, if not all of you, work way over 40 hours. And so here's what Gallup has discovered. 69% of people at work are not engaged, and 19% are actively miserable at work. And when they do the deeper dive, they said, "What's driving that?" And they said it's because of burnout. According to the American Medical Association, newsflash, burnout is not a medical illness. Burnout is the environment that creates a reaction that when the alarm clock goes off on Monday morning, a person's like, "What? What? Do I really?" And what I'm inviting everyone to think about, when I absolutely love what I do, I go to an environment, you go to an environment where you're celebrated rather than tolerated. When you work in an environment where you're celebrated rather than tolerated, that environment invites you to be a vitamin, not just an aspirin. When I understand how to be a vitamin, not just an aspirin, I begin to understand when you operate in your brilliance, I don't have to compete against you. I'm here to complete you. I'm here to complete whatever needs to be done. So you're probably saying, "Simon, okay, that's awesome. How do I begin to rewire my brain in an environment?" Number 1, quit your job and go to work. When you go to work, you understand that employment is a job, but deployment is work. When you deploy your brilliance into what you do, what is brilliance? When I started writing and talking about brilliance a number of years ago, I based it on some of the research work of Dr. Howard Gardner, professor of education at Harvard. Dr. Gardner, he and his team of researchers did an interesting study over a 20-plus year period, and what they discovered is that children up until the age of 4 are operating at the genius level. Same group of children studied in their early 20s. Only 10% operating at the genius or brilliance level, and in their late 20s, early 30s, only 2%. So the question that you have, like I had, oh brilliant one, is where did this spark of brilliance go? It didn't go anywhere. It's in you. And I submit to you, when you are in that environment that challenges you to be the best that you can be, number one, you become an intrapreneur. An intrapreneur begins to look for ways to, how do I solve problems for this business? For those of you who are in middle management and leadership, director, VP, whatever your role might be, leader of leaders, you begin to understand you don't push brilliance out of people, you let brilliance out of people by inviting them to understand that I see you. Here's the most important thing I want you to take away, and then I want to build on this. Dr. Maria Muzik, M-U-Z-I-K, is a clinical psychiatrist at University of Michigan. And she is saying in her research there are 3 things that all of us need right now. Number 1, to be seen. Number 2, to be valued. Number 3, to be appreciated. So, those of you who work in an environment, how often are you appreciated and recognized? Here's why. 1 minute of recognition creates 100 minutes of initiative. In other words, you begin to go above and beyond. So here's something I want y'all to do for yourself. If you're not recognized, I just want you to take a moment and find somebody that's sitting next to you, look them in the eye, come on, everybody find somebody. And I want you to say this. Say, Simon says, I appreciate the opportunity to be a technologist with someone brilliant just like you. I want you to know, I see you, I get you, and you are a bad mamma jamma. Okay. Yeah. So part of the reason why I wanted y'all to do that is because when you come to BITCON and you begin to see each other, the moment you begin to articulate that you see me, you get me, you understand me, you become healing presence. I don't know what you went through before you came to O-Town, but from the mere fact that you are here in this room, you show up in my life, and I was in California a couple of weeks ago, so excuse me from what I'm about to say. When I step into your quantum field, and I begin to hear your words carry energy. And the words that you just shared with Oh Brilliant One, you found a way to hug each other with your words. So when we become healing presence, we begin to discover I am brilliant. I don't know about y'all. But when Black Panther came out, I saw it 3 times. Did anybody see it? Anybody see it 3 times? At least 2 times? Well, I'm a good folk. And I would tell y'all, it's getting ready to come out, and I'm gonna at least see it at least 3 more times. Now, you're probably saying, Simon, why? Why does that spark you so much? First of all, I saw excellence. Anybody with me? I saw creativity. Anybody with me? And then I saw what I could be. Anybody with me? And I don't know about you, it spoke to me. And here's why I share this with you. So I'm working here at Disney. I'm here for 7 years, and I decide, you know, it's probably time for me to move on. So I got a call from one day. Whenever you work here at Disney, you never talk to the media unless authorized. So somehow this journalist calls me. He says, Simon, where do you see yourself 10 to 15 years from now? And I said, I see myself as the president and CEO of the Walt Disney World Resort and eventually the chairman and CEO of the Walt Disney Company. And he puts this in print. So the article comes out, page 12, Florida Business Trend magazine, February 2002, true story. Still Google it to this day. And there's my picture with the Mickey Mouse topiary behind me. And my boss calls in the office. He's like, dude, what were you thinking when you did this interview? I said, Larry, I work at this company whose motto is, if your heart is in your dreams, no request is too extreme, for when you wish upon a star, it makes no difference who you are. But obviously it does here. So So HR showed up, and they asked me to sign a little piece of paper that went into my personnel file. And let's just say, Disney didn't fire me that day. But about a year later, I heard the footsteps coming, and they were not singing "It's a Small World" after all. So I thought, okay, it's probably in my best interest if I move on. So literally, I put my resume out on the street. I got 4 job offers, 2 vice president's offers, going to work at smaller companies, internal move at Disney. One of the senior VPs felt sorry for me. And then a senior director position to head up all customer care for Learjet owners in the world. And I turned them all down because Disney had sent me to Paris in 1999 to design a leadership program for 1,000 leaders out of Barclays Bank out of London. And while I was there in Paris, Lion King had just come out. And I said, remember who you are. You are more than what you have become. And when I said it, I was like, what? I said, you know what? It's time for me to bounce. Why do I share that with you? There's a book I want you to get a hold of. It's written by Dr. Henry Cloud, a clinical psychologist, and the book is called Necessary Endings. In the book, the central thesis is there will come a time and a natural expiration date where things no longer work. And when you begin to honor that and begin to take a leap into your future, everybody that has been assigned to aid and help you in your future show up at a place called there. But you get there in here. And when you get there in here, you will step out and all of a sudden, people begin to find you. I can honestly tell you that February 1st will be 20 years since I left Disney. And I wake up every single day loving what I do as a consultant and all the various things. And here's what I know to be true. So I'm out on my own and I'm no longer under the Disney umbrella. Nobody is calling me back because you know I'm not at the mouse house anymore. Who you? Who are your people? What do you do? It was a tough road, y'all. Because I had cashed in my entire 401k with significant Disney stock, took out a line of credit on the house, and there was no plan B. The country is going to war with Iraq for the second time. Corporations were laying off by the hundreds of thousands. You're talking about recession and inflation. What's the point, Simon? There will never be a perfect time for you to become the person you might have been. And the moment you begin to sense that it's no longer working, I want you to break out and say, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money while you're sitting at the table. There'll be plenty of time for counting when the deal is done. So you got to know when it's time to make that move. And here are the 3 questions, Socratic method of learning, the answers in the question. Question number 1, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Question number 2, what would I do if no one paid me to do it? Question number 3, by the great philosopher Howard Thurman, what makes me come alive? Dr. Howard Thurman would say, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs are people who come alive. As I look at all of you beautiful and brilliant people, you know what I see right now? I see $1 trillion opportunity. Some of you in this room, you are carrying the next algorithm in you. Some of you are carrying the next breakthrough idea. And here's what I know to be true after 20 years of being a solopreneur, reinventing myself 5 times, having rejection. Here's what I know to be true. Everybody that is assigned to aid and help you to be the best that you can be, they will show up when you add value. Do a little bit more than what others ask for. So I wrote a book, and my book comes out, and I self-published it. And I decided to send the book to publishers in New York and California, and I got 13 rejections letters. And in fact, I got an email that said, it was like a Dear John message. Hey, Simon, thank you so much for your success guide. We don't think this is really worthy of us publishing. We wish you much success. And I was like, what? Anybody ever experienced rejection before? I'm telling you, I cried a river, but I said, let me stand up, because my father was an immigrant from Jamaica 60 years ago, here to Florida. He picked oranges in Mount Dora, Florida, went up to Buffalo, New York, married my mom, and my dad told me, the best hand that will feed you is in any economy is the one at the end of your wrist. So I got up off of my blessed assurance and I started hustling. I got after it. And all of a sudden I'm at an event speaking, and this lady comes up to me and she says, do you have a book deal? I said, no. She said, I'm going to introduce you to the COO of Hudson News. If y'all ever fly in the airport, you see Hudson at the airports. And so Joe DiMiserio, the COO, comes up to me and says, we've never heard of you, but we're going to give you a shot because our board member said we should. And so the night before, I'm nervous, I'm sweating, I'm like, what in the world am I going to share? And then all of a sudden, it clicked. And I told him, put a flip chart sheet of paper up on the stage, and I began to go old school. And I said, if you did this, this, and this, here's how you can bring $4 million to the bottom line. I got done. Joe said, take a walk with me next door. We were at Mandalay Bay out at Las Vegas. I'll never forget it. He walks me next door, and exhibiting are all of the publishers who turned me down. He went up to him, he said, this is Simon T. Bailey. He just spoke to all 400 of our general managers. He got a standing ovation, and you know we are the largest book purchaser in airports. We want you to give him a deal. I was like, what? 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 That's what I'm talking about. Within 72 hours, I had 3 offers from HarperCollins, Random House, Putnam Penguin, and I took an agent with me, and the agent said, I'm going to show you how this really works. So I'm sitting there, and Joe Testatori, who at the time was senior vice president of HarperCollins, walks into the meeting, and he says, have you heard of the book Winning Wittenbright, Jack Welch, former CEO of GE? I said, yes. He said, that's our book. He said, we would like your book to be a part of the fold. And he said, so you want to be a best-selling author? I said, well, I would really like to be an effective author, and if I'm effective, I'll be best-selling. And he said, wow, we've never had that answer before. Well, he leaves the meeting. The next week, I get the offer from HarperCollins. We decide to go with them. And I called to thank Joe Testatori for saying yes to my book. And they said, oh, you didn't hear? Joe retired. What I didn't know, his retirement was already in place. But I had to show up after every no to find the yes. Sometimes somebody's no protects your yes. And because of timing, he was in place to make the deal happen. What are you saying? I'm saying that everybody that wants to help you spark your brilliance is in place when you bust a move. That's what I'm saying. So, here's the other big thing I want you to really get. What happens after rejection? What have I learned over these last couple of decades? Relationships are the currency of the future. Every person that's got a startup idea or your deal is already in motion, more than money, you need a relationship. Because I am here to tell you, relationships will bring the money to you. Now, let me level set this. When you go into business, you just don't go into business because you want to make money. Yes, you want to make money. Whoever said money is not important just flat out didn't have any. Money is important, all right? So what I discovered when I came from a place of service, how can I help you? What can I do without looking for anything in return? All of a sudden, people begin to show up and connect me with relationships. So I got a call from a friend of mine one day in Santa Barbara, and she said, Simon, the next time you're here in Santa Barbara, I want to introduce you to Linda. And I'm like, who's Linda? And she said, have you heard of lynda.com? I'm like, no. She said, meet me at my country club the next time you're out here. Now, I didn't have a trip to Santa Barbara, but I made up a trip because sometimes you can smell the money. Some of you got to sense opportunity. So I showed up at her club, and she said, oh, just to kind of acclimate you to the club, you know, the initiation fee for members is about $250,000. And you see that man over there? I said, yes. She said, he's the grandson of the guy who founded the Egg McMuffin. And I said, oh, okay, it's that type of place. You know, I was making sure I was looking casket sharp that day. So, so Linda walks in, and Linda says her and her husband, Bruce, saw something years ago when YouTube was launched. They said, what if we create micro movies to teach how to build a website, how to understand Adobe, on and on and on. And she said, Simon, the future is micro learning. Well, when she said it, it was just like, whoosh, it went so over my head. I am not techie. I was like, what? But something in me said, just be quiet and go with it. Sometimes it's better to be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. So she said, where's your car? I said, my car's parked out. She says, follow me. I jump in my car, I follow her in her car back to lynda.com. All I remember that day, there were 500 22-year-olds running around, and I said, I don't know what they got going on here, but I need to get in on this. Linda walks me into a meeting, and she says, this is Simon, he's my friend, I want his content on our platform. The director of content came up after Linda left, and she said, this is not our normal process. We normally vet people 6 to 9 months, but if Linda says you're supposed to be on the platform, you're gonna be on the platform. And what I begin to discover, when you have a relationship, you then have to find a sponsor, because the sponsor has access to say, here's what's going to happen. Fast forwarding, I said, okay, what's this lynda.com business? And I found some people who understood it. They said, we're gonna take your content and design it so it fits their platform. Fast forwarding, since we said yes to an opportunity, we have had over 250,000 people in 100 countries experience 3 of my courses on their platform, because relationships are the currency of the future. What are you doing to build relationships? I know that's what our time is about, but I want to give you just a couple of thoughts. Dr. Heather Holleman is a professor at Penn State. And I was listening to a podcast that she was doing the other day, and she said one of the most important questions that you can ask in a potential business relationship is this: what question should I ask you about your business or your life? And when I heard that question, I was like, what? And she began to unpack it, because she said so many people show up with hat in hand instead of asking a counterintuitive question that causes that person to say, whoa. I'm reminded of some research from Emory University that says the moment you help someone, the reward centers in our brain begin to light up almost as if we have been on the receiving end of the person we just helped. And guess what they call it? They call it the helper's high. So my friends, what do I want us to do? From today forward, and I know you're already doing this since yesterday, but I just want to build on this. Every person that you meet here at BITCON, everybody say 5. I want you to identify 5 relationships. Now, let me tell you some of the new people that I met. Where is Sandra? I met Sandra this morning. Where's Sandra? Hey, Sandra. I met Morgan this morning, Morgan from Philadelphia. Hey, Morgan. I met Jordan, and where's Jordan from Tennessee? Hey, Jordan. I met Jordan this morning. I met so many wonderful people. And then I got a LinkedIn message from a guy named Tremaine Robinson. And Tremaine said, my sister is at BITCON. Can you say hi to her? So where is Nikita Bowens? Is Nikita Bowens in here? Hey, Nikita. What's going on, Nikita? Nikita, Tremaine thinks that you are an amazing sister. You are absolutely brilliant. He is one of your biggest fans. He admires all that you have done and all you are becoming. And he is so happy at BITCON that you're here at BITCON because he knew what it took for you to get in the room. And Nikita, you are in the room because you have something to offer, and you're going to meet amazing people who will help usher you and take you to the next level and give you a hand up, not a hand out. Five relationships. I want you to find 5 relationships, and when you connect, the first question I want you to start with, in the spirit of BITCON, how can I help you? How can I serve you? Because it's not about me, it's about we. And when we make it about we release into the universe the law of reciprocity. What goes around comes around. Let me take it to Sunday morning on y'all. God has set you up. Is that all right? Can some of y'all receive that? Did he just go there? Did he just drop the God card? Yes, I did. Because here's what I know to be true. Without him, I am nothing. Without him, I would fail. Without him, I would be like a ship without a sail. Don't worry, I'm not going to pass the plate and ask you to sow a seed. I'm not going to do that. What did he just say? What does sowing a seed mean? Okay. So, okay, corporate presentation. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna open up the floor for any questions that you might have. We got microphones in the audience. I promised Dennis that I would do this. Y'all, can we just pause for a moment, family? How many of you love BITCON and the BITCON experience? Can we give it up for them? Big ups. Okay, so real quick, you got a question? We're going to have microphones circulating. The best way I can serve you is to answer your question in this moment. So I see a couple of hands. And tell me your name.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Gigi Hamilton, hailing from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hi, Dr. Gigi.
Okay. And my question for you is that when you talked about your experience with Disney and leaving and having the fear, I have my 18-year-old son here who is trying to find his path. And when you're young, you don't know how to embrace that fear. How do you help someone overcome when they don't have the mentorship?
Wow. Dr. Gigi, thank you for that question. And what's your son's name?
Kendall.
Okay. So, Kendall, fear is false evidence appearing real. So the first thing I would invite you to think about whenever you have the fear, this is going to sound crazy, get a good night's sleep. And the reason I encourage you to go to sleep and just get a good night's sleep is because what you want to do is enter into the dream state. When you enter into the dream state, wrestling with fear and the future, your internal being will begin to search the avenues of your wisdom to begin to pre-play pictures of a coming attraction. So the reason I have to enter into the dream state is so that within my spirit, the script of tomorrow can be written on the movie screen of my mind. Now, when you have a dream, Kendall, don't worry about all of the characters in the dream. The dream is not about them, it's about you and the archetype of what they represent to you. And Kendall, what I would encourage you to do to wake up and write the dream down and then go back to sleep, okay? When you get up the next day, say, what is this dream saying to me? That's the first thing. Second thing, a little becomes a lot over a long period of time. So what is one step that I can make towards my future? What makes me come alive? What is it that I do really well? What's my talent? What's my gift? What's my cognitive bent that causes me to move in a direction? So Kendall, quick story. When I was 14 years of age, growing up in Buffalo, Mom and Dad took me to McKinley High School. McKinley High School named after William B. McKinley, our 25th president. At McKinley High School, you had to take air conditioning, refrigeration, sheet metal, carpentry, plumbing. I failed all the classes, Kendall. I went out for the basketball team, and they said, you are not the next Magic Johnson, and I got cut. I went out for football, Kendall, and they said, no, and I got cut. I went out for track and field, Kendall, and they said, my brother, you are a little slow. You may want to try cross country, all right? So at 14 years of age, my freshman year was a total disaster. Now, y'all already know from my GPA at Morehouse that I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. So my parents moved me to a different high school, and it's at McKinley High School, where my English teacher, Miss Rita Lankus, may she forever rest in peace. She said, young man, I want you to write a speech and give it before the entire school. And I said, got it. And I stand here today, Kendall, 35 years later because of what a teacher saw in me. It was my skill, it was my gift. So Kendall, what I say to you, what's that one thing that just speaks to you, that you love to do? Then here's the third thing. Find all of the people that are doing what you're thinking about doing, because success leaves clues, and you cut down your learning curve and you begin to learn what they did so that you don't make their mistakes, but it accelerates you to move into your future. Is that all right, Dr. Gigi? Does that help? Okay, awesome.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Who else? I see a hand right here. Who else has got a mic? All right, yes, ma'am, your name?
Hi, thank you so much. I enjoyed this. My name is Obiama Ainaya.
Hi, Obiana. Wait, what does your name mean? That is a beautiful name.
It means God's good heart.
What? Love it.
Fun fact, my husband is also named Obiama, and our son is also named Obiama, so whole family, you know.
Love it.
So my question is, you made a lot of impactful points. There's a phrase that I've heard repeated, that the future that you want, the destiny that you're approaching, is waiting for the person you're becoming. And so I want your thoughts on that statement, because you spoke about having a sponsor and unlocking your brilliance. What is the process to becoming the person your destiny requires?
Wow, I love this question. So here is the process as a recommendation. Number one, see it. So when I think about the future me, the future you, what do you see? Okay? Number two, second step in the process, write it down. If you think it, ink it. Because when you begin to write it down, what you're doing is you are starting to own it in your heart as you write it down. After you see it, after you write it, say it. And you're probably saying, Simon, say what? Rehearse the future in the present. So when I begin to say what I see, I am taking ownership of it. Let me digress before I give you the last two steps. One of my mentors is a gentleman named Tudor Bismarck. And Tudor said something one day that was so powerful. He said, within every brain, there is a mind. Within every mind, there's a belief system, or what Peter Senge calls in his book, The Fifth Discipline, a mental model. Within every mental model, there is a story, and within every story, there is a shaper. So a shaper shapes a story based on a mental model that feeds thoughts to our mind. So when I see it, I say it, I write it, then the next thing I have to do, step 4, is act it out. Every single day, act as if. ACT, the acronym stands for Accelerating Confidence Today. So, somebody walks up to me and I say, good morning, how are you? Because I'm acting confidently. And this is something I still do today. Last week I was in San Francisco, and I'm at the San Francisco airport, 5:30 in the morning, and I see this gentleman walk by me, and I'm like, that's Charles Phillips, former co-CEO of Oracle. So being the bashful person that I am, I chase him down. And I said, Mr. Phillips, and he turns around. I said, I've been reading about you for the last 20 years in Black Enterprise magazine. And he said, nice to meet you. I said, what are you doing? He says, oh, I'm running venture capital. I'm the chairman of the Apollo Theater, da 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 da. But what I recognized, I would have never done that if I didn't act as if. So when you have that thought, I begin to see it, I begin to say, I write it, I say it, I act as if. Do one little micro step immediately. And then the fifth step in the process, receive it. How do I receive it? Every morning, carve out time to create the future in the present. What did I see? What did I write? What did I say? What did I act out? I receive it now. And what you are doing, you are releasing vibrations into the universe that causes a frequency to happen. And all of a sudden you meet somebody or you'll think about somebody and you call them and they'll say, I was just thinking about you. How did it happen? It came as a result of your intuition, your instinct, the vibration, and the frequency. So what you begin to think about frequently, you get on the frequency and begin to pull it to you. Okay, who's got the mic? Who's got the mic? Next person, over here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Simon, thank you for being here. First off, my question.
What's your name? What's your
Troy
name?
McHenry.
Hey, Troy.
Troy McHenry, yes, sir. Towards the end of your conversation, you were alluding to a lot of servant leadership qualities. If you could expound on what your thoughts are, our philosophy on servant leadership.
Yeah. Wow, Troy. So, when I serve, I become selfless instead of selfish. When I become selfless, I shift into emotional commitment instead of rational commitment. Emotional commitment is I do what I do because I want to do it. I want to serve. I want to help. That's who I am at the core. Rational commitment is I do what I have to do because it's about me instead of we. Let me say it to you a different way. About 12 years ago, I got a call from Tom Ziglar, who is the son of Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar in the personal development space is one of just the icons. And he said, I want you to come and have lunch with my dad. So I'm sitting there at lunch with Zig Ziglar and his wife, who he affectionately called the redhead. They had been married for 60 plus years. And I said, Mr. Ziglar, what is it that I can tell people? What should I share with them? Because he was in the winter season of his life. I didn't know that he would transition less than a year from that meeting. And here's what he said. He said, Simon, if you help enough people get what they want, enough people will help you get what you want. And when he said it, Troy, it was like a joy bomb went off in my head. Because when I realized being a servant leader, it's not about what I'm getting, it's about who I am becoming as I help you with no strings attached. And when I help somebody with no strings attached, I look you in the eye, I ask you your name, tell me about you. And when you know I am honoring you, all of a sudden, the conversation creates belonging. That you are serving me. You're not just looking over my shoulder to see who's the next person that I can talk to. No, I'm serving you. And here's the last thing, Troy, that I'll say. When I truly serve someone, I'm saying that I love you. Because before I can love you, I have to love myself. So I love myself enough to serve you because love is not what it says, it's what it does. And when I serve up in the spirit of love, you know the difference. You can read the tea leaves because it's truly about you. I could spend another hour talking about that, but thank you, Troy, for that question. All right, One more, because I wanna keep you on time. I don't wanna wear out my welcome. And did it say, brother, we can't bring you back. You went over. You went over, all right? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you so much for empowering brilliance in this space. I feel motivated. My name is Alexandra Carter. I am currently working for a nonprofit, Co-op Careers, so servant leadership is definitely a part of my why. And I wanted your brilliance on relationships and maintaining them.
Yeah, first of all, Sister Carter, thank you for what you're doing in your nonprofit. Can we just give it up for her for what she's doing in her nonprofit? Absolutely awesome. So, I'm gonna give you my secret stash. In building relationships, first of all, how do you know the name of the dog, the cat, the niece, the nephew, the son, the daughter? What are all of those factoids that you know about this person? Number one. Number two, how often do you write a handwritten note, text, phone call, video? I'm just thinking about you. Sprinkle it throughout the year, maybe every 90 days, just a touch point. Number three, what is it that I can help you do to be more successful? Because when you ask that question, you're like, what? That's a different question. Because the quality of your questions determine the quality of your thinking and the quality of perception, how people perceive you. Another way to build relationships is to find out what they are into and say, wait a minute, how can I contribute to something that's important to them? What you're doing is creating a surround sound of care that says, you're not just the average person showing up with hat in hand, but you are cut from a different cloth. You are somebody who values people. And when they know that, they will begin to yelp about your brand and become the unofficial marketing department for you and your nonprofit. Okay? All right, family, I gotta stop there, but let me just do one last thing. Relationships is everything, and I really believe that life is about making people better. Remember, 5 relationships. How do we help those relationships become better? I was invited by Hilton Corporation to speak to 4,000 of their general managers, and I'm telling this story about this general manager who impacted my life. I didn't know he was there. I didn't know he was in the room, and I'm telling this story about someone who gave me a hand up and a hand out. Well, let me just take you into the experience. Let's go ahead and roll that video. This is totally unplanned. This is Ian Sauer.
This is Simon T. Bailey.
When I dropped out of school and I was looking for a job, I did go back to school, got my undergrad, got my master's degree. It was this guy who 28 years ago gave me a shot, who gave me a job, took me from the Days Inn, and when I was offered a job to go and work at the Ritz-Carlton Buckhead in 1987, I turned the job down because I didn't want to leave this general manager. Y'all have to excuse me. Y'all have to excuse me. But it was Ian Sauer who took me from the Days Inn to the Comfort Inn. And I followed him and Jan Bateman wherever they went because they created a moment for me as an employee. And Ian, I would not be the man that I am today at 49 years of age if you didn't make me a better front desk clerk. Thank you. Thank you. Family, it's all about making people better. And I don't know when I'll see you again, but I want to let you know on behalf of my wife, Jody, who's here today, my niece, Anna, and Anthony, I want to let you know that we love you, we believe in you, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. I've got a couple of books. My new book just came out. They'll put it up on the screen. Ignite the Power of Women in Your Life, a guide for men, Be the Spark. And I love you, family. Take care.